I think it's recording, yes? Yes, so just to let everybody know, welcome. This event is being recorded because obviously not everyone can be here tonight in London, so it will be made available online shortly after tonight. So, which is fantastic because I'm very excited for the conversations we're about to have. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for coming and being here in person. Yeah, it takes a lot of effort to get yourself here on a Tuesday night, so I really appreciate your physical presence. My name is Maryann. I run Sappho Events, which pretty much creates social events for LGBTQIA plus women, trans, and non-binary people, especially in non-alcohol fueled settings. So we're trying to create social spaces to add a bit of variety to the LGBT scene, because some people like to nightclub and also play board games and do pottery and come to talk. So that's why we exist. First of all, I'm going to sit down, and then I would just like to thank Hackney Council who have funded tonight. We're here because of their funding for LGBT History Month, and thank you to Hamilton Library, Eileen, and your Hamilton Library are hosting us tonight, and thank you for everything that means that we can be here. So I would like to, before I introduce the panelists, I want to kind of just quickly establish why we're here, because it is LGBT History Month, and it was established by Sue. We're incredibly lucky to have Sue with us here tonight, and it was established in the UK in 2005, so it's been around for a long time, and we're here to raise awareness and combat prejudice. And it's very much still needed in 2023, which is sad, and partly what we're here to talk about as well. The theme for LGBT History Month is Behind the Lens, and I thought for us, for queer women, trans and non-binary people, it was important to talk about the intergenerational experience of going back in history, because if you don't mark the people who've contributed to where we are now, it's very easy to lose sight, and there's a lot to learn and carry along the way. And I'd like to thank Trudy, who penned our title, Our Life, the Long and Short of It. So I'm going to introduce our amazing panelists now. So we have Professor Emeritus Sue Sanders of the Harvey Milk Institute, who's an out and proud lesbian. She's co-chair of Schools Out, the educational charity founded in 1974, whose aim is to educate out prejudice, making schools safe and inclusive for everyone. As co-chair with Paul Patrick, they founded LGBT History Month, which is celebrated every February across the UK. Schools Out provides free lesson plans for teachers that usualise the lives of LGBT people in their full diversity. Sue has also worked with the criminal justice system extensively and has helped set up the first LGBT independent advisory group to the Met. She's won many awards in her time, and she is a true veteran of the UK LGBT community. So thank you very much for this. Now we have LGBT Poet Laureate Trudy Howson, who moved to London in 1972 to attend drama school. She immediately joined the Women's Liberation Movement, the Gay Liberation Front, and Rock Against Racism. Throughout her life, Trudy has worked in the performing arts and political activism, often combining the two. Being appointed LGBT Poet Laureate in 2016 has enabled Trudy to use poetry as a catalyst for social and political change. Trudy proudly works with organisations that support our fabulous and diverse community. So welcome, Trudy. Now we have Lila El Metwi, who is an award-winning equity educator with over 30 years' experience in education and inclusion in the private and public sector. Lila is passionate about social justice and is the founder of Pride in Education and Educating Out Racism. She founded and chairs Proud London Councils, the Pan-London LGBT Staff Network for Local Authorities, as well as the UK Queer Arabs. Honoured as Stonewall Lesbian Role Model of the Year and named on the Guardian Pride Panelists, Lila has made an incredible impact on the LGBT community. And we have Andrina Leanne. Andrina is a Black lesbian lived experience speaker, writing workshop facilitator and poet who helps organisations with their inclusion and wellbeing strategy. Andrina writes and performs poetry to come to terms with and speak about her personal experiences with homelessness, mental health and sexual abuse. Her debut poetry collection, Charred, was published by Team Angelica in 2020 and was shortlisted for a Polari First Book Prize. Andrina founded Poetry LGBT Open Mic Night, which ran in Hackney for many years as well, and is one of Stonewall's Black History Month role models. And we have Don Juan, who got me their bio 30 minutes ago, which I was not able to print out. So I'm going to present what I know of you, because I actually saw Don on stage for the first time on the West End in Death Drop, which is fabulous. And Don is an actor and drag king who lives in Hackney, and they host wonderful events all across the UK and beyond. And your Copenhagen World Pride is where you got your first. That was like a big showcase.
Wow, so yeah, because this is my fault. I only sent my bio. I got back from Jamaica on Sunday. I want to say it was Sunday just gone, but it wasn't. It was the Sunday before. But I've been jet lagged, and I've been, because it's 5 hours behind, and I'm really like trying to catch up, and I came straight back and did a gig a few hours after landing from Jamaica at National Student Pride, which was great. And I think I might be one of their first drag kings that they've brought into the mix. And then I edited a podcast. I've got my own podcast on One Chats, which was in my bio that I sent a few hours ago, an hour ago, whenever it was. And I just released my latest podcast with Ginny Lemon, in which we do talk about gender and being gender non-conforming. And Copenhagen was, last year I did Copenhagen, which is the biggest drag show in the world. So I did that in front of 25,000 people, so that was nice.
Well, welcome, Don. Trudy, did you have a poem you'd like to open us with?
Of course, I have to have a poem.
Yes. Well, the LGBT Poet Laureate must.
This one's called Older, but I hate to have to say these words, and sad to say they're true. The fact is, we're all getting older, including me and you. I'm noticing some worrying signs of the newness wearing off, like creaking joints and aching feet and a funny tickling cough. Don't talk to me about my teeth and the cost of keeping them in. It's proving to be a painful price maintaining a natural grin. Waistline thickening, sagging skin, hair turning silver and getting thin. Trying to resist the march of time is a battle we will not win. Now, part of me feels very proud to have lived my life so long, as I've never been known as one to scrimp on wine or women or song. Age doesn't stop me feeling frisky, having fun and taking chances. Age doesn't stop me loving my life or being foolish in various romances. The important thing, it seems to me, is to live your life to the full. I may become decrepit, demented, or dour, but I swear I'll never be dull.
Thank you, Trudy, and that is a very fitting start to our conversation, because we are here to talk about intergenerational experiences within the LGBT community. And I wanted to just start by asking all the panelists about the importance of those dialogues within the queer community. So I think it's a fair thing to say that LGBT people have been historically erased, and our rights are still very much not established or anything to take as a surety in life. And I think also within the LGBT community, women and non-binary people are also a minimised voice, and we have a lot of work to do to amplify that. So within that context, what can we learn by talking more and better establishing our history? LGBT History Month every year helps bring that to our forefront, but what can we do in our everyday lives and the work that we do as leaders to keep preserving history and improving upon how we do that? I might start with Sue.
Thank you so much. I think one of the things that I would like to start with, in a sense, is the importance that Hackney has played in LGBT history. Hackney, back in the 70s, was one of the first boroughs that actually did something really rather wonderful. Any of you have come across Femi Otajure?
Yes.
Yeah, Femi, very important woman, worked in Hackney, did masses of work around lesbian and gay issues. Hackney also produced a very important document called Mirrors Round the Walls, which was just before Section 28 actually finished. Now, I'm assuming everybody in this room knows Section 28. I can make that assumption? Good, excellent. You spent a lot of time talking about it recently.
It's in the quiz.
It's in the quiz, I'll shut that. Good, excellent. Hi. Welcome. So, Hackney has been a borough which has done some really important things in making sure that LGBT people are visible. There was also a woman called Jane Brown. Anybody remember that name?
Yeah.
Ah, good.
Kingsbury.
Sorry?
Kingsbury Kent.
Kingsbury School, exactly. She was rung up innumerable times by marketing people who wanted her to buy tickets to Romeo and Juliet for her kids. And she eventually, said no, and the reason I'm saying no is because it's so heterosexual anyway. About 6 months later, suddenly it hit the papers. And she went through absolute hell. The papers door-stopped her. She was outed as a lesbian. She was a head teacher in a school. The relationship that she had was also outed. And it was absolutely atrocious. I remember standing on the steps of Hackney Town Hall, leading big campaigns to get her, for people to recognise the amazing work that she had done, and to challenge some of the Hackney politicians who were in fact vilifying her. So it's really interesting that the grassroots people of Hackney have been doing some brilliant work, but there are some people within the Hackney politics who have left somewhat to be desired. So, yes, please.
What year are you talking about?
Oh, God, yes, I knew you'd ask me that.
Because I'm a foreigner.
Sorry, yes, I can't remember. Will you remember? You remember, Jane?
No longer.
I think we're talking.
It's about 30 years ago.
It is about 30 years ago.
30 years
Yes,
ago,
yeah. We're talking. It was when Section 28 was still in existence, because we've just lost. We've had 20 years of Section 28 not being there. So yes, it's about 30 years ago. Thank you. So Hackney, really important borough in actually getting LGBT people, putting money where their wealth was, and actually making something happen. So I think that connection with your borough, and also we're thinking about schools is also very important. So the work that Schools Out in LGBT History Month was very much set up to enable youngsters to discover their history, because we've had 20 years of Section 28 when nobody was mentioning anything. And my experience when I was at school was words lesbian and gay never mentioned. If they were, it was very negative. It wasn't until I left school and began researching my own history that I discovered that, bloody hell, I had been studying lesbians and gays, but they had never been outed. Everybody assumed that they were heterosexual. I assumed they were heterosexual. And it's not unsimilar, that whole process of when you think about disabled people, black and ethnic minority people, we're just whitewashed. You know, we're just being presented as white, probably middle class, able-bodied, and the reality of people's identities are hidden. So for me, LGBT History Month, Schools Out, we're passionate about making the full diversity of the LGBT community visible and proud and safe. And of course this month, we are really faced with a challenge with the attack on Maryann Wright, horrific. And we know that the reason why that happened was because of the appalling abuse that we've been getting both from the government and the right-wing press. And it's just reminded me so much of Section 28 again. And I think we need to learn from how we fought Section 28 and take that knowledge and take that passion that we all had when we were fighting Section 28 to the situation that we are in now. And I think, you know, the local groups, the passion that people have, and if you look at Twitter, the work that people are doing to make sure that our trans and non-binary siblings are feeling safe and are being recognised by our community, it's a crucial thing for us to do, not just in February, but every month, and make sure that we are total allies for our trans people, and we challenge the right-wing press and we challenge the government. I think I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Sue said, because actually, I mean, we 100% agree with everything you said, but also because I go into schools and teach for LGBTQ plus History Month, and one of the things that I kind of use this month for is to highlight what the community has experienced in the past, and to kind of, that whole thing that we talked, because I do Black History Month as well, so teaching around any anti-racism and all aspects of inclusion and equality, all of the ones that tick my intersectionality box. But what I find is, just picking up on that point of young people still actually not having open conversations about sexuality. And one of the simplest things that I do in a class scenario is just go through the letters of the LGBTQ plus, and those conversations. So, for example, I went to a school in Tottenham and spoke to year 8s, which are about 12, 13, and when I go into the classroom, I talk about HBT, which is defined as homophobic, biphobic and transphobic bullying. And just to, one of the reasons that I wanted to highlight this is because the Brianna Jai, I think her name's actually pronounced, I had to research that for my podcast, because I was like trying to get a pronunciation of the name right, because her passing and her murder when she was just about to flourish as a young trans person just emotionally devastated me. And having gone into this school in Tottenham where they were having lots of problems with young people still saying that's gay, you know what I mean? Just that is still so prevalent amongst young people. And the route of using LGBTQ plus History Month as a way in to have conversations that are literally just, I will go into a classroom and say, let's talk about what a lesbian is. And what will happen is that people will start laughing. And then I'll talk about why everyone's laughing. And then we'll get over that. And one of the most interesting things that came out of the going through the letters with particularly with a group of young boys is the conversation around intersex. and the fact that that anyone in the room could be born intersex and nobody would know, because that's not something that is visible. But actually, one of the comparisons that I use is if someone is born as a Siamese twin, does that make them a freak? Does that make them something that, does that take away their person, their actual being as a fully fledged human being in society? And we had this whole conversation around the fact that just because there's something different about you doesn't mean that you should be persecuted. And one of the saddest facts is about how many trans teenagers and young people commit suicide. And so that was one of the reasons that the Maryann Wright murder got to me so much, because when a young person is making their way through that journey, to then have that snatched away is just is beyond words. And I think that what LGBTQ plus History Month allows us to do is to talk about the past, to talk about the fact that we've got so much further to go to create more understanding in society. And the example of Brianna's murder kind of lets us know that we've got so much further to go. And I think the route to that is education. So if LGBTQ History Month opens up the doors to that, it's thank you for I didn't know that you'd created it, so thank you so much for that.
First of all, thank you everybody for coming on a Tuesday night. I'm really grateful. I want to build on what Sue and Don have said and answer your question, Maryann. You cannot be what you cannot see, so visibility and representation do matter, and that's why I created UK Queer Arabs, because as a lesbian of Arabic descent, I didn't see myself being represented anywhere, and when it was either stereotypical or inaccurate. History is really important because we need to learn from the past. What is it that you say, Sue? You need to understand the past to comprehend the present so you can build your future. So it's really important that we look at what's happened, and things like Section 28, which was a piece of homophobic legislation by the government which prevented the promotion of homosexuality as a pretend family relationship, and it affected museums, archives, libraries, as well as the education system. As Don was saying earlier, there was a report by an organisation called Just Like Us, which surveyed 4,000 pupils during the pandemic, and it stated that 67% of LGBTQ plus kids have thought about ending their lives, 67%, and 89% of Black LGBT kids have thought about ending their lives during the pandemic. So the work that we do in education actually saves lives. The bullying and the harassment and being in the closet and not being able to be your authentic selves has detrimental impact on your mental health and well-being. So it's very important not to lose sight of that. And Sue and I started Pride in Education in March 2020 as a result of the British government, Boris Johnson, cutting £4 million from the education budget that was dedicated to HBT, anti-homophobic, biphobic and transphobic bullying in schools. Now we thought it was just going to be for the pandemic, isn't it? We thought, well, we'll just run the conference for the pandemic, but now more than ever it's needed because schools, even though Section 28 was repealed, and I'm not going to tell you what because it's in the quiz, but over a couple of decades ago, more or less, schools haven't moved on since then. Teachers are still afraid of celebrating LGBT History Month, and it was actually debated in Parliament, wasn't it, Sue?
Yes, the word debate is problematic. Basically what they did, and it was the first time they've ever done it, Angela Eagle actually instigated some time in the House of Commons to really talk about LGBT History Month and to talk about what was needed for LGBT people both in this country and abroad. there's something called the APPG, which is the all-party group, which looks at LGBT issues across both Tories and Liberals and Labour. And it's a group which is attempting to make a difference for our LGBT people. So although it's called a debate, there wasn't a vote afterwards. It was just a time to actually discuss LGBT issues. It's the first time they'd ever done it. So bless Angela for doing that. But to try and make this government take seriously the issues is a profound issue. And one of the things I think we really need to do is to gather all our LGBT potential MPs now and talk to them, because we need them to hit the road running. And if they do what they did last time they got in, they took a long time to change laws. We didn't get the Single Equality Act until 2010. They came in 1999. So we have to make them work.
And just to finish off on the importance of history, it's about identifying the signs, the telltale signs. We're in a recession. It was in a recession in the 80s. That like to avoid history repeating itself. And it's very, very frightening. Even though we have come a long way in terms of our rights, we can get married, we're protected by the Equality Act 2010, there are still things that need to be done. And the fact that conversion therapy is not banned in the UK, and when it was announced it was excluding trans people, the fact that trans people don't have access to healthcare for their gender confirmation needs is absolutely appalling. There's an organisation called ILGA, I-L-G-A, the International Lesbian and Gay Association, and every year they do an LGBTI rights. In 2005, the UK was number 1, and last year we were number 14 in Europe, and number 21 for trans rights. So it's literally gone down. And also look at hate crime statistics. Transphobic hate crimes has increased by 56% in the last year alone. So it's important to look at history and go, hang on a second, that we've been there already. We need to be very vigilant so that it doesn't happen.
Thank you, Maryann. I think what I would like to add to this conversation and the question is that society seems to think that LGBT people are having a great time, that things have moved on, like there's so much good that has happened, and it's true, there are good that has happened, but there are still atrocities that we have to contend with in our community, and it's important to have these intergenerational conversations, because some people will be like, yeah, we've paved the way for you young people to just be free and be out and proud and all of this stuff, but then when you speak to some young people, they're like, we're not having that out and proud experience, it's really difficult for us. So I think it's really important to keep these conversations going. And also on the thing of young people, what I've noticed in our community is that some young people tend to behave as though they are the first to do things. Yeah, they behave like they're the first to do things, like, you know, gay people have never existed before them, and they're just coming out of nappies and out of school to just, like, you know, be the proudest gay person ever and start all these things, and then without actually acknowledging the people and the history that came before them. So I think that's why intergenerational conversations need to happen, so that young people know that we have been doing the work long before me. I'm 42 nearly, and this work has been going, if you look back in history, gay people have been around forever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, doing all the work, doing so much work for the rights and freedoms that we have today. And it's also important to recognise that there are still people that can't, you know, live their authentic selves. And it's a privilege that we're even on this panel, just, you know, sharing our lived experience right now. Creating visibility and conversation for those who are unable to join the conversation for whatever reason. So, yeah, just wanted to add my 2 cents to that.
Yeah, so when I was 18 and came to London, which was 1972, I'm 68 now, I just discovered a whole world of political activism. And the thing about political activism that I've got no idea about, I was coming from a very small, homophobic and very racist mill town in Lancashire, was what fun it was. I mean, forget dating apps, you know, political activism is fantastic. So, you know, I got, you know, and I was living in Stoke Newington, which I just thought was the lesbian ghetto of the world. So, you know, what I'd like to say is that, you know, sometimes like political activism can appear a rather almost elitist thing, but actually once you get in there, it's really terrific fun. And one thing I would do would be encourage people, you know, to encourage them to get involved in these groups. You know, you don't have to do a lot, just turn up and be there, and you'll meet people and you'll find you've got a lot in common, and other things as well as politics. So, you know, I'm a great sort of believer in join some kind of activism, because otherwise, who's going to do it? If you don't do it, who is going to do it? So.
No, it's a good point, and I think this has been it's a sad conversation to have, because it feels like it's just Groundhog Day, we keep having it, and it's difficult to problem solve at such a meta level, and I thought, why don't we actually look into the nitty-gritty of it? So Hackney is one of the gayest boroughs of London. In the 2021 census, I think it's 5th? 3rd. Oh, it's in the top 5, yes, so 3rd.
Which ones are higher?
London, yeah, absolutely.
Right, all the Vauxhall guys.
So, you know, Hackney, if we go to a more micro level, is definitely doing something right. And so I wondered, because we are here also to celebrate Hackney Voices, and everyone on the panel has a connection to Hackney, the borough. So if we go more micro level, how do we activate? How do we keep our history alive? How do we fight for our rights in this kind of immediate way? What would your top tips be for anyone of any age listening?
Join some kind of political activism group. Definitely. Just join a group. Just to, you know, if you see something on an app or something, then just go along, or you know, phone in, or get involved, or go on a Zoom call, or you know, just think, yeah, you know, I'll just go along. You don't even need to do anything or stand up or say anything. But, you know, just see what it's like. Because I think one of the problems is after COVID, because I've been doing obviously lots of Zoom shows, which everyone is completely sick of now, particularly people who've had like 5 Zoom meetings during the day at work. So, you know, I think it's really knocked a lot of people's confidence about going out. You know, so I think sometimes you really have to make an effort to get out of that habit of not going out and being social and thinking, yeah, you know, oh, she's really attractive, or they're really attractive. You know, getting your mindset around that you can combine that with politics and political activism. So it can serve, political activism can serve a number of purposes. Not only are you doing a really good thing that will benefit everybody, but you might find out that you're actually benefiting yourself personally.
So I think it's events like this that help to kind of drive those conversations. Also, I should probably say for context, because people often think I've just arrived on a mega buzz from the Bull Ring. I don't live in Birmingham anymore. I've been in Hackney for 13 years, and I feel like this is, and one of the reasons I moved here is because it's really creative and really queer, and now it feels more like my home than Birmingham, and I live in Stoke Newington as well. And I went for the lesbians, but there aren't that many anymore. It's all like yummy mummies.
I hear it's Catherine now.
Yeah. Bring back the lesbians. Anyhow, But I think that actually, because as a performer, I'm out at a lot of events that are performance based and that are drinking based and that are party based. But I don't think there are enough of these type of events that help to kind of generate more of a conversation. Having this intergenerational conversation helps people to think, you know, what can I do? How can I get more involved politically? And I think when an event like the murder of Maryann Wright happens, that stirs up that political kind of emotion within us to want to go out and do something. But I think generally that what it actually feels like it lacks in Hackney and in London generally is just the kind of spaces that can facilitate this type of conversation and just general community spaces. What I will say on a positive note is that I'm involved with Friends of the Joiners Arms, who they do a drag king night called Lena Just Day, and recently got some funding for to actually find space, queer space for community, for events. But I think because I'm involved in that kind of planning, one of the aims is to think about more kind of just daytime stuff and social stuff. And I think I'm sure all of us in this room will have experienced as queer people. And someone was talking about, I think, Lila, you mentioned about the stats around black, queer young people and mental health. And that was one of the things that was such an issue for me growing up. I talk about the fact that growing up I struggled with the fact, or was bullied based on the fact that I was black and looked like a boy and queer, and now I make a living out of being black and looking like a man and performing all over the place as a queer person, so I'm really glad that it turned around for me. But the point is that I think we individually or collectively struggle to find our space and to feel like there are places that we can just walk into and feel like we belong and feel safe. So I think that is something that could really help to make a change within, create a better history for our community or create a better future.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, talking about Hackney specifically, that Hackney Pride 365, Hackney was actually one of the first boroughs actually to say that Pride isn't just for Pride Month, it's 365 days of the year. So they set up a thing called Hackney Pride 365 to put on events all year round to acknowledge that, you know, LGBT people exist every day, not just during certain months. And they've also, Hackney Council have also done things like, I don't know if you know the artist Stick. They had the Stick art work all over the borough with like two people holding hands. Hackney Council have also been very instrumental in helping us as co-founders of Fagamuffin, which existed to queer Hackney Carnival some time ago.
Still exists.
It still exists, yeah. I'm no longer part of Fagamuffin, but yeah, Fagamuffin still exists. And the thing is, I just wanted to big up Hackney on that point because Hackney have been very willing and progressive to make sure that LGBT rights and people are visible within the borough. We even had UK Black Pride at Haggerston Park one year. So I think it's important to recognise the boroughs that are listening to local people and actually put in the money towards these events, because it does cost to run events like this, like big
and
events.
Of course, and
Adrena runs a fantastic open mic poetry night. So, you know, if you want to, listening to people express their poetry is so inspirational, and actually it's quite healing. And if you want to have a go at writing it yourself, then go to Adrena's Open Poetry Night, which is a fantastic event in Hackney, isn't it?
We were in Hackney for a few years, but now we're at the Two Brewers in Clapham. It's called Poetry LGBT, but also follow Insight Poetry as well, because Trudy used to run Insight Poetry. Yeah, but it still exists today, and there are loads of spaces where LGBT people are being heard and are sharing their stories. And it's up to us to create our history and document our history, because if we don't do it, other people will write our history for us.
Yeah.
So,
You know what that means.
I just wanted to very quickly pick up on what Trudy was saying, that it can be fun. And one of the things that lesbians are very good at is being fun and creative. And if we look back,
As well as other things.
As well as other things, yes, but fair enough. If we look back during the whole time of Section 28, there were three amazing things that Dykes did. One was the abseiling into the House of Lords.
Lesbian Avengers.
You know, which was just stunning. And ironically, I was there. I'd seen the Dykes because I was in one gallery and they were in the other, and I had waved to them. The law was passed. I thought, oh goddess, I was furious. I was dying for a pee and a fag. Walked out, heard a kerfuffle, walked back, and all I could see was no lesbians in front of me and a rope dangling. So I missed the amazing moment. Then, of course, the same women went into the BBC studios and took over the 9 o'clock news. And then earlier than that, they captured a bus and painted it pink. Now, these are wonderful, creative, fun events which grab the headlines and enable us to be seen. And this is what we need now. So I pass the torch over to you.
They had a t-shirt that said on the front, I'm a lesbian Avenger, and on the back it said, we're recruiting.
Well, where are these places now? I don't see this activism. I don't see the place of a young person to go to.
Actually, GLF is still doing a lot of activism. They're on Facebook. I think they call themselves 52-year birthday party. But check out the GLF. I mean,
There's a lot in like art spaces.
anarchy working.
It's not activism. It's like curating.
Well, that's why Trudy is saying, look at the Gay Liberation Front, which is in existence and
Anarchic.
And what they did when London Pride was trying to say that they had the big anniversary of the first Pride March, they actually did a proper Pride March on the Friday beforehand. So they're still doing a lot of great stuff, and Trudy and I were there. So, you know, GLF are functioning, they're happening. Start your own group. I mean,
Raise Collective, R-A-Z-E Collective, are also doing great arty type stuff. But you know what? It's a question of just, even on a really basic social level, if you go to meet-up groups like International Lesbians, for example, there's lots of people who are quite political there. If you start talking, they're having a thing on Friday at Holborn. And actually, that's a social event. But you know what? Once you start talking about it, just to one conversation with one person, then that is how you make that connection. So I think we've sort of got out the habit of doing that. How does political activism start? It starts by two people talking, and then another two join, and it's like, whoa, that's really happening. And it's because we make it happen. It's that little initial
and it's
chat.
much easier now. You've got Twitter, you've got Instagram. I mean, when we were setting things up, we had no social media whatsoever.
Not even mobile phones. Can
Thank
you
you,
imagine?
So it was two questions in one. It's a lot easier when you've got a gay mayor, like Philip Glanville in Hackney, to make things happen, and when you walk around the borough, you will notice, I think 4 rainbow crossings. There's one in London Fields, one in Stoke Newington. Where are the other ones? Sorry? Bethnal Green. Yeah, Hackney Road. Yeah, Tower Hamlets, it's on the wall. I was there with John Biggs, the mayor of Tower Hamlets at the time, and the current Hackney mayor opening that rainbow crossing. So it's a lot easier when you've got the political will to advance the rights of a certain community. So I think we're quite privilege in that way, and you listed quite a lot of the achievements that the borough has. In terms of activism, what you can do, I think you need to look at where you're at and what capacity you have, because activism can be really draining, and I'm speaking from experience. That Sue, you nodding, it's so much that needs to be done, and we need to earn a living, we need to be able to look after our self-care and well-being, which Andrina is a specialist in. She runs fantastic self-care writing workshops. So if anybody wants to commission or know someone who looks, just look her up, andrinaleanne.co.uk. Activism starts, as Trudy was saying, with one conversation, one person at a time, and you need to find your passion. So for me, it's education. I was a teacher, I queered the ESOL curriculum, and I continue querying the education sector with Sue through prideineducation.co.uk. So if anybody wants to volunteer, come and talk to me afterwards. And we're providing support for people in primary, secondary, further education and higher education. If refugees and people seeking asylum is your passion, then find an organisation like Rainbow Migration, for example, who supports people seeking asylum who are surviving on £5 a day and who literally starved during the pandemic. If homelessness is your passion, then find an organisation like the Outside Project, and make sure that you are mindful of your time when you're doing it, because it's very easy to get sucked in. There's so much that needs to be done and so little time. So that's my 2 pennies worth.
I just wanted to add a little bit on to just answer your question about where are these things, because I think that as well. I often think, where is this kind of activism going on and what's happening, and how do we find this? And I know you've kind of touched on some of that. What I would say is, actually, for younger people now with social media, that's taken people away from doing stuff in real life and in person. So I do lots of online activism, and I think, you know, obviously Twitter and Instagram and even TikTok is like a platform to be able to raise your voice on an area. But I think it is really important that people kind of garner groups together and kind of force. I mean, even this event now, there could be some opportunity to develop something from this kind of thing. So I think what I find is, I go to everything that I go to, there are lots of people who are like, oh, we want to do that, but we don't know where to start. I'm very political. I just see myself as just existing as a political person. So I'm always happy to lead the way. So if anyone wants to like talk about forming or you know, discussing opportunities to be able to do more, then I'd happily have that conversation, or maybe it's something that could be facilitated through Sappho. But I think it can be that sometimes, even though you've got social media now, because there wasn't social media then, people had to go out on the streets and do something. And you can make a difference with your voice on social media. But I just love the in life, you know, kicking down number 10. So if anyone wants to join me, just let me know.
There's also like our democratic rights. We are very lucky to live in a country where we can vote and we can write to our MPs. Meg Hillier, who's the Hackney, South Hackney MP, is sick and tired of getting letters and emails from me. And I'm challenging her on a regular basis, but we need to exercise our rights. And the next step is going to surgery, when your MP is holding a surgery. So use your democratic voice. Go and vote, register to vote and write to your MP. But also, if you are a parent and you have children in the school, or you know anybody who's got children, how inclusive is your school? I strongly believe in acting local to impact global. So start small. Like the mountain is huge, but it starts with one little step.
Yeah, I think I totally agree, but I'm kind of aware of the fact we've been talking at you, and I'm kind of, we've had one question, but is there anybody else wanting to add to it or ask a question?
You read my mind, Sue. I was about to open it up because I feel like we have had a lot of thoughts here, and I'm sure there are lots more specific questions because we have so much knowledge sitting here. Yeah, I'm about to open it up, and the only thing that I would add is that I created Sappho because I'm from Australia, and everyone said to me, "Oh, when you get to London, it's just going to have all gay people." And obviously there are lots of gay people here, but there aren't that many things. There wasn't many things for me to do that fit. I don't, for example, I'm not a big drinker, and I don't go out clubbing very much. It's not something I enjoy, and I found there was almost nothing to do. And obviously, if you dig deeper, you will find things. But Sappho was set up because I just talked to a few people, and they kept saying, "Oh yeah, I think that too." And enough people said, "I think that too," that I thought, okay, there's at least 10 people that will come, and I'm the type of person that I will just make something happen because I hate when something doesn't exist for us. But I would really recommend anyone who has that inkling to start something, just try, because Sappho was created 2 years ago from just one idea, and we are struggling to find enough money to keep everyone paid properly. But just start and have those conversations, and you'll be amazed what you can achieve. So I would just recommend, as someone who's done it in the last 2 years,
Actually,
make it happen.
Could I just say on a historical note that Sappho, there used to be an organisation, initially it was called Arena 3, that started in the 50s, and then it became Sappho, and Sappho was run by Jackie Forster and Murray Todd, who later had a relationship with Maureen Colquhoun, who was the first member of Parliament to come out as being a lesbian. So there used to be meetings above the Chepstow pub and at the Sol's Arms, and we used to have all big discussions. So Jackie was a wonderful, a very dear friend of mine, and a wonderful political activist with so much joie de vivre, and so I was really thrilled when I heard you were calling it Sappho, because it's such a celebratory name that celebrates our lesbian history, not just way back from the original Sappho, but in the interim period from the 50s.
Yes, absolutely. We carry on a very long tradition of organisers, and I have lots of questions, but I want to open it up. It's best if you use the microphone though, and this will travel, so I'll come to you. Does anyone have questions? Comment is also great.
No, I was just thinking, I mean, I'm the same as Don, I mean, like, I'm political every moment of my life, but I think these days, I mean, I do a lot of just kind of left activism, like just progressive activism, and I'm involved in the World Transformed, which is this, anyway, it's a long story, anyway, look it up, World Transformed. And I just go in as a queer person, and they're like mostly younger people than me, some around my age, some older, but they're just like, yeah, you're queer, whatever. Anyway, you're the one that does this and this and this, and like, it's like I'm an equal, and no one bats a bloody eyelid. And everyone's like, oh, if I say something that I need particularly because of my sexuality or my body or whatever, you know, they're totally accommodating. You know, it's just, I mean, I think it's the same what someone else said, it's like, go to what you're interested in now. I mean, really, we need to fight for everyone's rights. It's not about whether you're black or you're queer or you're trans or you're poor or you lack housing. All of those things are coming together, and we need to fight. Like, that's what we need to say to people. It's not we're going to get exhausted working for those things, but if we all step up and work on those things, everyone will get everything they need. And that's what I think is. I mean, I'm a dyke. I've always been a dyke. I'm really supportive of queer lives in general. But like, I really care about people not having a house over their head, on their, to live in, and I care about people that have enough food to eat, and if people are going to be able to live like productive and happy lives if they don't have what they need, and everyone's struggling on that level.
Absolutely. And thank you for the work you do on our behalf.
We were late, so I don't know if you'd already brought this up, but there's a brilliant film out called Blue Jeans. Anybody seen it?
Oh,
Can you speak about it?
actually, Layla and I were hosting it. Lila and I were hosting it at the Garden Cinema.
Oh, good for you.
when it
No,
came
it's on at the castle down the road, if anybody wants to see it.
It's very,
In Chatsworth Road.
it's a slice of history.
It's about a teacher who's in the closet, and it's around section 28 and stuff. Brilliant, well worth going to see.
Actually, there's also on a Wednesday, there's a lesbian discussion group in Marchmont Street. You're asking where, and I haven't been for a long time, but I hear it's very lively and it's very well attended. So it's at Gaze the Word, the bookshop. So actually just Google it, check it out.
So is that at the Lesbian and Gay Queer Centre near
The LGBT Centre.
Where's Gaze the Word?
Marchmont Street.
Gaze the Word, Marchmont Street is in the
Oh, is that still there then? Oh yes, I see. Yeah. What days are they?
Wednesday. So if you look online, they have a list of what they're discussing. But I hear that they start on one thing and it shoots off onto various things. So I hear it's very, I have been for a long time. It used to be live.
Okay, this coming Thursday, other side of the river, so you may have to get your passports out, at Kennington, at the London Museum, there is a series of films about trans people, and then the following week there's another film. So we've been doing an LGBT History Festival at the Kennington London Museum, so worth checking out. So there's Blue Jeans, there's also some amazing theatre I noticed in Hampstead, there's amazing stuff. I mean, I'm somewhat screwed because I'm now down in Broadstairs, which means I'm going to have to leave at 9 o'clock because I've got to get my train. But there are some amazing stuff that people are being putting on for LGBT History Month. So it's worth looking at the calendar on the LGBT History Month website, and or just putting in a browser LGBT events. And there are thousands of them this month. There is no excuse not to find something stunning. You're here tonight, thrilled, and there's oodles more.
And actually, in April, the Garden Cinema, which is very close to Holborn Station, is going to be doing a queer cinema month. This is a brand new independent cinema, and it's so plush. It's Art Deco. It's absolutely beautiful. So the Garden Cinema. So I've been working with them, and we're trying to create an environment of what I'm calling social cinema, which means that you can just go there on your own, and there'll be other people just going on their own, and it's queer and friendly. So check it out. Garden Cinema, the programming is great.
Amazing.
Can we just find out where the
LGBT Centre. That's near Blackfriars Station on the South Bank. It's newly established, and they're open all throughout the day. I think they close at 8 p.m.
Yeah, and they hold lots of different groups there,
Lots, yeah.
over 50s with no alcohol. And young people experiencing homelessness. I mean,
it's very broad, and Sappho is in search of a home at the moment, and we've been talking with the LGBT Centre because they are established and get funding to help support groups with free event hire and things like that, which means it's an accessible space for the community to meet. And of course that's another point, that within the LGBT community things cost money and people's time costs money, and it's a historically underfunded area of society, and groups like Sappho, all of these things that people put time and energy behind are very difficult businesses to run without funding. and the LGBT Centre is one of the new additions on the block that have got that support, so they're a great place to start. Has anyone else got any questions? We've got about 15 minutes, just to give a heads up, and then we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back to learn about our history in an interactive quiz.
Do you want to show the prizes?
We have some prizes. We have some beautiful Pop and Ollie books. What does LGBT mean?
Fun. Yes.
Beautifully queer children's stories.
Yes.
Which
Prince Henry, I mean, when a prince falls in love with another prince, I mean, these are the kind of stories that we needed to have growing up. So, Pop and Ollie have donated a bundle, and so if you stay and you join the quiz, which is completely free, these are some of the prizes that you can get.
yeah, so hang around afterwards for and also it's very educational because this is also what we're here for, to learn. Any more
Can I
questions?
just talk a bit about the theme?
Don't be shy, we don't bite.
I'm sorry, do you want to say? We'll start and then we'll come to you.
Thank you. First of all, you're just such a huge, impressive panel. I have no experience in any of your areas, but I'm a bit of a sporty kid. I think it's interesting we haven't mentioned sport yet. In London in particular, there's fantastic queer offering, and it's not something that's sort of exclusive to those who are supremely talented. I am emphatically not. But what I also think is really interesting is the experience of the intergenerational dialogue within sport. So I used to play for a queer hockey team, and we had players aged from 20 to 72. And what was really interesting about that was the 20-year-olds would show up, all the energy, all the speed, all the tricks, the new tricks they thought we knew. And you'd have, at the other end, you'd have these defenders who are 65, 70 years old. They know the tricks, they read the tricks, they steal the ball, and then they have this amazing hit right up the pitch, which you have from the age of 20 to 71, and you have these 20-year-olds and you're like, how did you know I was going to do that? So I think in terms of sport is a really nice allegory for that kind of, that dialogue. And of course, off the pitch, after you finish your match, you've got your social, sitting there and hearing from the couple who've been together for 40 years, well, yes, and who were at the march that enabled the legislation change that means that this 18-year-old goes to school and hears about queer stories, which of course, many of us won't have. So, not to say that it's better than any of the things we talked about, but I think it's sort of an added cultural addition.
Thank you.
Definitely, if you like sport, it's one of the most accessible places to start. And there are lots of queer teams. There's a queer women's football team. There's a new queer women's football league. I used to play for the Camden Bells. And whatever your sport, there's probably something for you.
Okay. So one of the things you talked about was the fact that activism can be really draining, and I really resonated with that because, it's such a huge topic. LGBT rights, LGBT history, all the work there is to do. So I think my question would be, how do you keep yourself grounded and just sane in the enormous work and enormous subject that this is, and how do you just keep going as an activist? Because I know that the world a lot of the times can be really hopeless, or just feel really hopeless. And even though you've done all this work, sometimes it can feel like you're still getting started, because there's always something every single day that just reminds you that the world is still a messy place a lot of the time in a lot of places. I guess that was my question. How do you keep yourself grounded in the madness of all?
I think one of the things that has kept me grounded, and I've been at this now for over 50 years, is friendship. My partner of over 30 years has been incredibly important in enabling me to do the work. She packed my tea for me when I was on my way up, so I could eat on the train journey. Those sort of practical things make a massive difference. But having friendships like Lila has been incredibly important. Having those people in your life who care passionately about, unfortunately, some very important people that I've worked with, like Paul,
who I co-founded LGBT History Month. He died, my co-chair, Tony Fennick died, Nancy Duguid, Barbara Burford. Incredibly important people in my life have died. But other women and other people have come along and taken their place. So grab your allies, grab your friends. Your friends are really important and they will feed you. But I think the other thing is, use your anger. I run on anger. But I hope my anger doesn't go out to my allies and my friends, but I use that as an energy to go forward. And it can take me to some difficult places. But it does enable me to be clear and to make the difference, I hope, by using that anger as fuel. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I was going to say friendship, and I was going to mention you, Sue, and Andrina. Self-care is really important, and I think you probably have a lot to say on self-care, but make sure that you put the oxygen mask on yourself before you go and put it on others. Be realistic about what you can achieve, and sometimes it's better to do a little bit and then build on that and gain traction, rather than trying to change everything all at once. And know when to stop and take a break. And I've learned that from you, Andrina, because I used to be this machine gun going, da, 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 we need to do this and we need to do that, and I've burnt out. So speaking from my experience, that's why I said you need to look after yourself so you can better look after others. And there's a fantastic shop in London Fields that sell all sorts of beautiful creams and holistic. No, let's promote each other and amplify each other. Yeah, do you want to talk about your shop? Yeah, Earth to Roots. Check them out on Instagram. No, because I do believe that it's about amplifying other people's voices and bigging other people up. If you shine a light on the good work that is being done around you, you become illuminated.
Yeah, I would just like to not take up too much time, but just to say as well that just recognise that it's not a competition. Like, it's easy to look around and think, oh, that person's doing so much and I'm not doing enough and all of that. Let's not compare our activism to what other people are doing, because I think, like Lila was saying, that it's important to recognise what you can manage. And yeah, just recognise that it's not a competition. And if each of us is doing a little bit, then all of that little bit adds up to a lot. Yeah? So there isn't any sort of like limit to what that little bit is. It's whatever you can manage at whenever you can manage it. Do you know what I mean? So I'd say lead with that in mind, and know when to say no as well. Yes. Gosh, because there are times when people will ask you to do everything and you're like, Maryann hasn't been like that. No.
Oh, she's talking about learning when to say no.
Yeah, I think it's something that we all struggle with, but I think it's important to be on that journey to say no when necessary, because, you know, people will ask you to be on board with their projects, and there's always something that needs doing. So yeah, make sure whatever you're doing as well actually resonates with you. So like what Lila was saying about, you know, picking something that you enjoy, or your passion, or what you, how you want to contribute in whatever way as well, is really important.
Yeah, I would say just be inspired by what other people are doing, and don't be too self-critical. Encourage yourself.
Celebrate your achievements.
Yeah, you know, just I think as a society we're encouraged to be very judgmental, critical. So I would say just, and the other thing I'd say is sort of just really respect the importance of a sense of humour and having a laugh. You know, when the tough really gets tough, you know, I often just try and really just think of something that I find funny, because it just gives you a lot of energy, and I think it's tuning into things that give you that positive energy rather than getting sucked into the negative. And drink plenty of water.
Always drink plenty of water. I just actually tying on to the point you made about laughter. That's actually one of my tools because I do so much activism, but with a bit of a kind of laugh on the edge, because that's just my style. But I also I managed to see Patrice Cullors, one of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and her talk was just it completely blew me away. And one of the things that she said that stuck with me, and this came through to me from the 2020 the death of George Floyd, and feeling that sense of black exhaustion. And I remember just being so wanting to say so much, but actually just feeling so sad and affected by it that actually I didn't have the energy. And sometimes going back to that self-care, you just need to let other people do the work, and not allow yourself to be exhausted. And Patrice was saying that you don't always have to say something, you don't always have to be that person saying right, because often when I see something that's horrendous that's happened within our community, most recently Brianna Joy, I've just felt so taken back by it. And then one of the routes that I took was to talk about it on my podcast, and even that I found really emotional. And I think there are times where you just have to step back and say that you acknowledge that there's work to be done, but we can't do everything. And yeah, lastly, just kind of using each other as a community and leaning on each other to be able to support. I think there are personally I have so many things that I'm constantly fighting for that it can feel really exhausting, and I think you just have to know that whatever you're doing or whatever your contribution you're making to change the world is making a difference. And actually I have to say that the work that I did in this school in Tottenham was really inspirational in terms of there were some young boys who I found out after the session that I delivered had been excluded for homophobic and transphobic bullying. And at the end we had an end performance, and they were on stage, these young boys, saying and rapping, it's okay to be gay, go your own way, and all this stuff. And I was like, and the head was like, what did you do? And so actually knowing that just having a conversation with certain people can really open people's minds to the fact that we're all just trying to live our best life, and that's how it should be.
Can I just add one more thing? Thank you. Sport, exercise, physical exercise, laughter, music. And I think one of the things that we are passionate about in LGBT History Month is the culture. The culture can make the difference. We can have the laws, but if the culture isn't there, that isn't going to happen. And I always cite South Africa. Brilliant laws, wonderful constitution, crap place to live as an LGBT person, because the culture isn't there. So the work that we're doing culturally in music, in film, in theatre, in poetry, will make a phenomenal difference, will inspire you and will inspire others. And if you think about someone like Nina Simone, if you think about someone like Bessie Smith or Billie Holiday, those amazing women who've done the most incredible music and power with politics. They inspire us, they encourage us, they give us that feeling of music can really lift you and move you forward. And I think good theatre can, good films can. So that cultural work, I think, is as equally important and has a place as well as the activity and political work. So get out there, make a difference, enjoy yourselves, because I think you've got to enjoy the work. I mean, although I run on anger, I still enjoy it, because I know I can make a difference, so I can get out there and I can see the shifts. So yeah, enjoy it.
Well, I think that's a really lovely note to finish on. I'm really grateful for all of your time and for coming out tonight and sharing your wisdom, and obviously for the leaders that you all are. So on behalf of everybody, I'd just like to thank you for your work. And as Sue says, this is just one of many, 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 many events for LGBT History Month, and Schools Out has on their website, sorry?
Calendar.
They have a calendar, yeah, so it's schools.
It's LGBT History Month has a calendar.
LGBT History Month has a calendar. If you Google that, you will find many other events to enjoy throughout this month too.
And for those of you I didn't get around to, you can still buy a badge off me before I run. And you can also get badges on the website. And we're selling the badges because we are totally unfunded. All the work we do is for nothing. We're unpaid volunteers, so the badge money enables us to make sure we've got a website and all the other things that we have to pay for.
Oh my word, I just thought they were free. I nearly stole one. I'll pay you in a bit. But what I was going to say is, because this is a good opportunity to plug events, isn't it? And tomorrow there is, I'm hosting, if anyone's single and ready to mingle, I'm hosting a singles night at Bar Donna, which is spelled D-O-N-A, in Stoke Newington, and it's for over 30s, so I mean, I'm sure you could sneak in if you have to do. But they have, there's already, it's limited to about 30 people, they've already sold 20 tickets, so if anybody fancies joining that, I think it starts around 7. And also I will be hosting Man Up, which is a drag king competition that I'm always pushing because drag kings are never as well promoted as drag queens.